Hi, this is Bonnie from Fairy Stamper, and today I just needed a play day, and I'm just going to try to do some different things I haven't done before, and I thought this would be kind of a fun thing just to try and see what we can come up with. What I want to focus on is the flexibility of our stamps and how some of the stamps don't just have to be stamped straight away, but they can be stamped by manipulating the actual stamp. The stamps today that I'm going to be using all different kinds of stamps, but to start with, I'm going to be using Fantasy Flowers from Fairy Hugs. And you can see there's 4 separate stamps. And what is the clue for this, or the key for this, for what I want to do today, is the stems and how they can be manipulated because they are just a thin stamp. There's another stamp that I can share with you because I've already got these set up. Here it is. It is the, here we go. This one's called Wildflowers, and it's really pretty. And this one doesn't move as much, but it has a little bit of flexibility, so you can look at ones that have a little bit of flexibility, but the ones that I'm using today have a lot of flexibility. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I have it placed on my board. It's already set up, and I'm going to take it off and show you how they're straight. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and stamp them so you can see what I mean about manipulating a stamp to get a little bit of a different look than what they are just standing or just being as they are. So I am using Nocturne from VersaFine Clear, and I am just going to stamp these on some white cardstock. I tried to center it as much as I could. I know that I will probably be cutting it to make it smaller depending on what I end up designing in the end. I just wanted to have, like I said, a play day. Okay, I'm going to have to stamp that a little bit more. You can see a little bit down there needs a little bit more ink. Now you want to make sure if you double stamp this that your stamps were secure and they did not move, because they can move slightly. Okay, there we go. So we have got that set up. Now I'm going to show you what I was talking about. These stamps, basically when you get them, are just, they're slightly curved, but they're not curved as much as what I have made them be curved. Let me take this one off and you'll see what I'm saying. So you can manipulate these and make a completely different design by setting them down on your stamp platform. And get a little bit of a different design. It's kind of fun. And then create something on your card. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that with clear embossing powder so that I will be able to add things to the top of this. Okay, so now I have taken the Wildflowers, like I told you, and I have manipulated that so that it will curl around the line that I already have going on there, and that they will be coming down this way. One of the things I forgot to tell you at the beginning, I used a metal die to give me my circle, so I knew how I wanted it to be shaped, so I held it underneath this side to make sure I had it going in the circle that I wanted it to be in. That was kind of like my guide underneath. This particular die measures about 4 inches. So I've got, like I said, this set up, and I'm kind of like matching that up to the top of that and then trying to make it go up and over. So it's going to be kind of like a wreath overlapping. I am going to go ahead and use the exact same ink. I'm going to use a VersaFine Clear and stamp that on. And I am stamping over what I already heat embossed with clear embossing powder. You can probably do it the other way because this ink stays wet for a while. And you could probably heat emboss it more all at the same time. And it kind of blends in a little bit better sometimes when you do it that way, but I chose not to this time. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit, another try at stamping the flower part for sure. One other thing I wanted to tell you is I did use the static pillow before I did any stamping so that when I put the heat and clear embossing powder on, it wouldn't stick as much. My first sample that I tried, I did not do that with, and so then stamping makes it a little bit harder. All right, so I've got a good impression now, and I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that one. Okay, so I wanted to show you how I am manipulating these on here. I cleaned off my stamp, and I'm trying to match up some of these vines with what the vines that are underneath there already. And this is going to have kind of like a swooping design like that. But as you can see, I'm not going to want this part right here inked or stamped onto here. So I am, like I said, I'm just playing and manipulating, and I've got that pretty much set how I want it to go. If I didn't, I can pick it back up and move it around right now, which is what I did for some of these other ones. But like I said, I am going to be putting a mask to the side to cover that up. And I'm going to have to cut this paper a little bit smaller to make it fit. Okay, let's see how that would. And there's always, like I always call this little hiccup that goes in between the stamp and where you're stamping. So I'm going to allow for that. And that's where that's going to go. I'm going to have to tape this down so that it doesn't move. And you're seeing how this goes in real time, not planned out. But that will work just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the same ink again. And I'm going to try not to get as much ink down at that end. You can see where I'm saying that's, and I can even use my finger to wipe some of that off. I can see I'm getting too much ink at the bottom here. Okay. Let's see here. All right, we're going to leave it like that. And I have a plan. If this goes over a little bit, it's all good. Okay, let's take a look. We need just a little bit, and that did work with that little, I always call that a little bit of a hiccup. It always misses a bit because it's raised. I know there's masking liquid and stuff out there that I could have used also, not have to worry about that little bit of a bump, hiccup. Okay, that worked. That's exactly what I do, and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use my heat embossing, clear embossing powder again. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of foliage, and one of those that I'm going to be using is the fern leaves. I'm going to be using the smaller one from the fern leaves, and I am going to be lining this up so that the stem will line up with a stem that is already there, and then I'll just stamp it that way. It's going to be like sort of like flower arranging, not really, but sort of like flower arranging by putting the foliage in certain places on the scene. So it kind of like will change out every time I even do it. I mean, I try to get it similar to what I try to do. And what I'm going to do with these, because they're more open instead of black, I will be coloring these in a little bit also. At least that's my plan. I'm not really 100% sure, but that's what my next step would probably be, is to color those in with colored pencils. Now, I've just inked that. If I don't place this exactly where I want it to be, I will end up with a little bit of a shadow. So I have to be really careful when I go to set this down. I do not move it unless I clean them off each time I set them down. So I'm going to try, like I said, to arrange these. That's going to be different. Like I said, even when you go to do it, it'll be different because it'll depend on how you have arranged your flowers. But these leaves work really good, even if you kept your flowers stems straight. These are a really good accessory to add to your flowers. And again, like I said, I'm going to try to line that up, the end of the stem with one of those stems already. And I'm also going to try to keep my fingers, you can see I get a little bit of black on them. I have to be really kind of careful also with that because I'm working with white paper. These are stamping really, really well, so this is kind of nice. Don't have to worry too much about those. Now I'm going to go up in the other direction as well. And again, I'm lining that up a little bit with that stem that's already the main stem. And I am going to go ahead and still heat emboss these with clear embossing powder. And I am stamping over these that are already embossed with clear embossing powder. I think I'm going to go this other direction. Not really sure about this sometimes. You know, when you're really doing flower arranging, it's kind of nice because you can actually take some of the leaves off if you want to. I think I'm going to go that direction. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do with that one. And then I'm also going to use the leafy, they're called leafy stalks, and I'm going to be using the smallest one. And I am going to be a little bit careful when I add this one because it's a little bit longer than what it needs to be. I'll probably have to put a little bit of a mask down below, or just be wiping it off with my finger first. And I think I'll probably wipe that off, but then like I said, then I have to be careful with my finger not touching anything that's on the white. All right, I think that's going to work all the way down. All right, and I think I'm going to wipe this off just a little bit when I go to put it on the next spot. I'm not going to stamp that down there at all. I just wanted to give it a little bit different texture. And it's going to need more ink on that. There we go. And I think I'm going to do one up a little bit further too. And then I think that will be all that I'll add. Okay, so that's going to be the end result of what I have created in terms of the foliage and the flowers. And like I said, the next step will be for me is I will color in some of the greenery, and then I'm going to be creating a background for this. Okay, so I'm going to be using my Prismacolor pencils, and the first one I'm going to be using, let's see if I can get that, is 907, and it's Peacock Green, and I'm going to be using all three of these. I'm going to be using three different ones. This one is 1096, and it is Kelly Green, and I'm also going to be using 1005, and that is, let's see here, Limepeel. And I chose the three different types. One's more of a yellow green, one's a blue green, just to give me a little bit different colors. So this is the darker of the three, and I'm just going to take my time and I'm going to be coloring these in as best as I can. And it's going to take me a little bit of time, so I am not going to have you sit here and watch me. I'm just going to color a couple of these up so you can see what I'm doing. It's actually quite enjoyable just to, color these leaves, and I enjoy doing that. So that's kind of like, I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to add another color to them. And that'll give me a little bit of a variety of color in a leaf. And so that's going to be the fern. And then I also picked, like I said, the Limepeel. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the Limepeel if my lead doesn't break. And there we go. I'm going to add just the Limepeel to these small ones. And again, because I heat embossed them, there's a little bit of a ridge for coloring. So that has to get down into the parts down below. So that's, it's just really simple coloring. It's just going to take a little bit of time because there's a lot of leaves to color. So, and then I'll just go ahead and try to blend those in a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do first, and then afterwards I'm going to work on the background. So I'll go ahead and get that done, show you what it looks like when it's done colored, and then we'll come back and do the background. Alright, so I have the green leaves all colored in, and the next thing I was going to show you really quickly is I'm also going to color in the flowers. And I am going to tell you again what I'm using. I am using Processed Red. This is 994. That is the darkest color of the three that I picked, and it is going to go down on the base of what they would be like petals if you wanted it to be colored in. I'm going to do that for all of them. This one is going up like this, so I'll show you this one as well. That's all full facing us. And again, it's not a really fussy coloring, it's just a little bit of color. The next color I'm going to be using is Hot Pink, and that is 993. I'm going to go ahead and get you a little bit closer. Okay, so the next color up from the Processed Red is Hot Pink. Okay. Just extending that just a little bit. And the next color I'm going to use will be Deco Pink, and that's 1014. It's hard to see those numbers when there's some light above. And I'm just going to finish that off on the very end of the petals. I'll do the same for the one down here. I'm going to do all of them, but I'm just showing you these two. Okay, and then for the centers, I went ahead and I used the black raspberry, and that is 1095. And again, that's just going to be a little bit of the base. It's got a little bit of a red tinge to it, like a a burgundy. And then the next color up for that is Black Cherry, and that's 1078. And this one's probably a little bit darker than that. And I'm just going to finish that off at the top. So I've got those two done. I'm going to go ahead and do the other two up here. But before I do that, I'm going to also show you these flowers. And for those flowers, I am going to be using Goldenrod, and that is 1024. And for this, it's going to be just this is the darkest color. I'm just using two different colors. So this is the base of those. And then I'm going to also use Jasmine, which is 1012. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of color to the top. And I'm going to color the one in the bottom as well. There's one down here I'm going to color as well. So that's all I did to give it a little bit of color that way. And then once I get that done, we'll work on the back. All right, so for the background, I'm going to be using this Cosmic Shimmer Pixie powder called Aqua Lagoon. And I don't want very much on it, so I'm just going to put a little bit up here at the top. See, if just don't want a whole lot of color. And I'm also going to be using Lindy's Magical Shaker, which is, this one's called Glittering Gold, and it has really pretty shimmer to it also. And then I'm just gonna spray this. It's just regular cardstock. And I think I'm gonna spray that a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I am actually going to use my blending brush, and I'm going to bring some of this color down. Well, this one doesn't bring the color down as much as what I thought it would. So I'm also going to try a little bit of this Lindy's Time Travel Teal. Again, I'm not going to be adding very much because it does overpower what you do. Okay, let's see how that works. There we go. I wanted to get some of that to run down. All right. I'm going to tap that back on my flower. I'm going to use my paper towel too to get some of that color throughout. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit more of the Lindy's on this side, the teal. Okay. Let's see. It's really, the gold has a little bit of red in it, and it's really kind of pretty. I'm going to add a little bit more gold right here. Oops, I got a lot there. I don't know if anybody's ever used a blending brush to use this, but it actually makes it look a little bit more like brushing. Well, it is a brush, but I mean like painting. I think I need a little bit more down in this corner. You can't really see that corner very well. Here we go. It's pretty much white. There. Starting to lose my water too. Okay. Okay, I think I like that. Just gonna make sure I've got some of the color away from the flowers and the leaves. I think you can see how pretty that shimmer is, the gold shimmer, and actually all of it is shimmering. It's really, really, really pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry, and then there's one more step I have that I want to do with this. Okay, so this is all dried up now, and actually what I even did is I did press it a little bit because it was cardstock. I used a wet paper towel and pressed it on the back and made it flat. And I also let it set between two of the plates that I used for my die cutting machine. Anyway, so now the next step is I want you to consider textures and how you can be using any kind of texture that you have in your stash. This happens to be the Fairy Hugs net. It's a fishing net, and it's really, really cool. There's a lot of things you can do with it. In fact, if you think about sentiments, lots of times you'll see people using sentiments just to accent their card. You can do that with the net. So I am going to be using the net. I'm going to be using VersaFine Clear Morning Mist, and I'm just going to be randomly stamping this, or inking it and stamping it. No rhyme or reason. Just where I think would be kind of cool to accent. Now I don't want to get so much the edges, so I'm just going to like be pressing in the center. And I am going to be cutting some of this back. I'm going to have to add a little bit more that was very light, so I'm going to add more ink. I'm going to be adding some embossing powder to part of this. I want to have a little bit of gold shining through. So there we go. So you can see what I mean. You get a little bit of accents throughout your piece. It's kind of cool. So I'm just inking that up again to add it in other places. Like I said, it's just like using a sentiment, a sentiment for an accent. And it is different every time you do it. I'll do it one more time and add a few more spots. Okay, so that's how I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to go ahead and put some gold. I'm using actually the Nuvo Fine Detail, and this is, yeah, I think it's just gold. I'm trying to see that what it says. Yes, classic gold. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right on here a second just to show you how I did that. I didn't put a lot on, and I did the tapping thing underneath. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not spreading it all over like you normally would. I'm just slightly tapping it. I don't want a really heavy, I just want it to be accented. So you can kind of see I'm gonna lift that up. What I mean, and I'm gonna tap underneath and get it in a little bit random places, and then I'm just gonna take the rest of that off. I'm gonna use my paper and just, so it's hardly on there at all. You can see it's hardly on there, and I'm gonna go ahead and heat emboss that. All right, so the next thing that I did, or I'm going to be doing, is I am going to be using a borderless die. This one happens to be a memory box, and one that I had in my stash. It is not available in the Fairy Stamper store, and I'm just going to be putting that up here at this corner to cut that out because I really like the open cut work because it allows me to put glitter behind it, and it makes a really pretty card. So I'm just showing you how I lay that out. I'm going to do it at the top corner and at the bottom corner. All right, so I'm getting ready to finish the card up, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did is I did cut that out at the top, and I also trimmed this down to just under 5 by 7 so I could have a 5 by 7 border. Now, I told you I wanted to have some glitter back behind here. So what I do is I use my double-sided tape and I trim that down so that it'll fit behind the card. Now, Fairy Hugs has over 20 different colors of beautiful glitter. This one happens to be Sky. And all I do is once I figure out where I have put my tape, I peel them back, and I'm going to go ahead and do both because they're both going to be the same color, obviously. And all I do is pour those on. You can see how beautiful, and it's just a beautiful glitter. Now, because this is on top of black, it's going to have a different look than if it was on top of white, just to let you know. I mean, just see, it's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I also, when I do it this way, I burnish it. Now, I am not a glitter queen. I like it, but I don't know all of the fancy techniques those people have that do glitter all the time. Now you can see it has a different look as opposed to looking with white behind it. And that's okay because again, it's going to all work out with what I am doing. So I'm going to see if I can move this glitter down just a little bit so I can show you how I burnish it without getting another piece of paper out. So somebody shared this with me. It is a scraper. I used to use it for my Cricut to get the Cricut pieces off my mat, and now I use it, and I mean, because mats have changed, so I don't need it for that anymore, but I am now using it to burnish the glitter, and you can see even how it looks so much different even after you burnish it. So look at the difference. It's got a different look. It's just a cool glitter. So that's what I do, and then I'm going to attach what we made to this with foam tape, and then I will be done. So I'm just going to hold that for you so you can see how beautiful that looks, and you can still see the shimmer and everything from what I used when I used all of the different powders, the pigment powders. It's just it's super pretty. So I just wanted you to see that, so that I'm not going to show you how it fits in a card so we don't have a super long video. One thing I almost forgot to share with you is that I am also going to be adding Azalea. She's a beautiful, beautiful stamp that I'm going to be adding her to the center. That was the one thing I forgot to tell you, so she will be added to this card, and you will see at the beginning what the finished card looks like. Again, I want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed that, and you can like it and subscribe to the group, to the channel. And I also would like to, if you haven't already joined us on Facebook at Fairy Stamper Hugs. We share our cards there, and it's a friendly group. And not only that, but we have a challenge every 2 weeks. And the winner from the challenge will win $15 to the Fairy Stamper store. And that will be a credit. So, again, thank you for stopping by. Talk to you again soon.